Okay, looks like yesterday in the state of Louisiana, we had a good news, bad news kind of day. Constitutional carry House Bill 37 by Representative Danny McCormick passed in a certain variation of it. There were some amendments that did and didn't get passed in terms of it, but I wanted to show you this video with the video from the actual debate on the floor because I kind of want you to see the sausage making portion of legislation. I think we can all agree that politics in general is pretty corrupt and a lot of dishonesty, a lot of favors, a lot of things that, some people just don't do. But they do behind closed doors and they do in legislation. And there's a lot of egos. All of this was on full display yesterday. One of the first things that I want to show you here is a video clip from the debate where House Bill 37 was put forth, and it was amended in committee by Representative Marcel. Representative Marcel is out of Baton Rouge. She represents a very progressive, extremely liberal, left-leaning district. She's very anti-gun, always has been. Depends on what benefits her or not. She's very anti-police. Again, depends on whether or not it benefits her. She can become pro law enforcement if it fits her agenda. She had put forth an amendment knowing full well that she was never going to support this bill anyway. I don't even know why she bothered. But she put forth an amendment to change the to change the age of constitutional carry from 18 to 21. Why, I don't know, and I'm not saying that facetiously, I just don't know why. I was not privy to that conversation in committee, and I have not watched any of the video. But anyway, that was her thing. She wanted to raise that age to 21, and it passed in committee. So that amendment was added to the bill. So it came to the floor yesterday in its current form, including that age of 21. Well, Representative Owen, who was one of the co-authors of the bill, he's not the author of the bill. He's one of the co-authors of the bill, and he is not in this committee. He is not in that criminal justice committee that Miss Marcel happens to be in. Owen is not. And this is important that you understand this. Owen wanted that age to stay and remain at 18, not be raised to 21. So even though Marcel's amendment passed in committee to raise that age, Representative Owen came back yesterday with his own amendment of the amended bill to put that age back to 18 from 21. This conversation that you're going to see right here is going to be an exchange between Representative Owen and Representative Marcel, which is really odd to me. This kind of shows a couple of things. It shows one, that actually it shows three things. It shows one, that they're massive egos, and when these people get their egos, a little shade thrown on their egos, they get bent out of shape. It also shows that there is an unwritten set of rules out there that we may or may not know about as the voting public, but they're expected to do favors for each other behind closed doors. You go along with me on this bill and I'll go along with you on that. Even if you disagree or agree, if we do these things, we're owing each other favors. And that's how a lot of this crap takes place behind closed doors. And we're like, why did my representative vote for that? In many cases, because they've made deals. They've done things like that. Well, you're going to see on full display that Representative Marcel is not real happy with Representative Owen on doing this, and that favor somehow is not going to get returned. In fact, she appears to be extremely antagonistic whenever she ends her discussion. You can tell that she's not going to be doing any favors for Mr. Owen in the future based on her response. But the third thing that it shows us is we put politicians on too high of a pedestal sometimes. Sometimes they're either stupid or they just don't pay attention. In this case, I'm not sure what it is, because Miss Marcel somehow thinks that Mr. Owen brought this bill to the committee. Miss Marcel, who sits on the committee, thinks that Mr. Owen is in the committee, which he's not. She's literally in the committee and thinks he's in there. You can tell by her conversation that she thinks she actually asked the question if he brought this bill to the committee and if he was in the committee or something like that along those lines. So she's either not paying attention or she's just not very bright. because she was literally in the same room with all the committee members that did not include Mr. Owen. And this is the exchange. I want you to see if you pick up on all the three of those things that I just mentioned.
Representative Marcel for a question on the amendment.
Representative,
Yes, ma'am.
in committee, did not we discuss this at length and we agreed to 21?
The committee did. I'm not in
put
the
on?
committee, ma'am.
Pardon me?
I'm not in the committee.
You brought this bill to our committee, though, am I correct?
I did not. I was not in the committee when the discussions went on.
You're doing an amendment. You just add an amendment.
Yes, ma'am. I am. This is my amendment to the bill that came out of the committee. Yes, ma'am.
So the way we brought it, did you know that the way that I added an amendment in committee to move it up to 21? Did you know that?
I did see that. And as a co-author of this bill, it was my desire that it be 18, which is one of the reasons I signed up to it.
Did you know that sometimes when we were in committee, we allow bills to get out with the understanding that the author is going to leave the amendments as we have placed on them in the committee?
I was not aware that
when people give you their word that they're going to work with you on the bill?
I was not aware of any such agreement.
You weren't? Okay.
I was not. I was not aware of that.
You're a co-author, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So she's butthurt, as you can see. She's definitely butthurt. That'll give me my chance to plug my Butthurt brand hot sauce, which is exactly why I developed Butthurt brand hot sauce for people like that. Interestingly, Representative Seaball came up next, and he wasn't having it. This whole condescending, did you know? Did you know? It's their way of getting you to say, no, I did not know this, to try to make you look stupid in front of everybody else, including the entire House full of representatives here. But Mr. Seaball comes up there and pretty much points out that there is no such rule that happened here, that Mr. McCormick never agreed that he was going to support everything that Ms. Marcel put in terms of an amendment here, that agreement was never struck between the two.
Representative Owen, I also sit on criminal justice, so this is a did you know question. Did you know that Representative McCormick made no such promise to Representative Marcel or the committee that he would leave the amendment on the bill?
I did not know.
Well, trust me, he did not. Thank you.
And of course, you had another representative, again, who's, I don't think he pays a lot of attention, that's very condescending, that came on, Mr. Bryant, came on afterwards, and he kind of echoed the same thing Ms. Marcel does. He tends to kind of follow her lead. Whenever she says something or does something, he does the same. So, bit of a follower there. So he kind of had the same things to say, but nevertheless, they did strike down Mr. Owen's amendment to lower that age back to 18. So they pushed that back out and kept the original amendment of raising it to 21 in House Bill 37 of constitutional carry. So it will not include anybody below the age of 21 if it passes. Now, this next clip is going to be one of those ones where ego gets involved. Representative Fontenot and Representative McCormick had some kind of heated exchange in committee last year on one of the visits that I made to Baton Rouge. It was not pretty. I don't think the public should have seen that. Clearly, these two guys have an axe to grind with one another. I don't know where this originated from. I don't care where it originated from. What I fear is that we, the people who basically are the victim of a lot of these stupid laws that they pass, we end up becoming victims of their ego battle, of their struggle amongst each other, because I have to think that sometimes they may not be doing what's right for the people of Louisiana because they don't like the other man. In other words, and I'm not saying this is exactly the case, but I'm going to give you an example. If Mr. McCormick doesn't like Mr. Fontenot, and Mr. Fontenot puts forth a bill that Mr. McCormick ordinarily might have voted for because it's best for the people of Louisiana, does he maybe vote against it because it's Fontenot's bill? That's where these two guys are, I believe. Fontenot had a bill last year that passed. It did include up to the age of 21, where McCormick's last year did not. It was age 18, just like he put forth originally this year. And McCormick's got pushed away and Fontenot's went through. Well, Fontenot did not establish his this year, where McCormick did. And this is Mr. Fontenot trying to explain why he thinks the age should be 21. Now, interestingly, I don't think Mr. Fontenot is stupid, because I listened to him at length talk about this bill last year, I think he's just ignorant, and I use that term nicely. I think he's ignorant to the facts. He mentions in his statement here that the federal law to purchase firearms is 21, that you have to be 21 to purchase a pistol. Either he is purposely not including everything, or he's using that to make his argument, because an 18-year-old person can purchase a firearm, can purchase a pistol in the state of Louisiana and federally from a non-FFL. Now, he never specifies an FFL dealer, which he should have, because that would have made his statement correct. But when he says you cannot purchase a firearm under the age of 21 federally, he's not right. You can purchase a firearm. I can sell a firearm to any 18-year-old as long as I don't think they are a prohibited person from owning a firearm, haven't committed a crime, or they're not a felon. So he's incorrect in that. And that's where I kind of have a problem with these guys. Is he making his case because he's so butthurt against Mr. McCormick here? Is he saying these things to try to make his statement? I think I would have had a little bit more respect for him and his statement had he been clear about it and actually said, from a federal firearms licensed dealer, you cannot purchase a firearm if you're 18 years old per the federal government. He did not say that. Again, I don't know if he doesn't know that or if he's just simply trying to drive his point home by leaving that bit of information out, but it seems a little bit deceptive to do that in order just to make your point. Now, interestingly, one of the other representatives comes on here, and actually Mr. Freeman comes on here and questions Mr. Fontenot about the age of 18 to 21 and makes some really good points and ends on kind of a mic drop. And this was interesting. So check this clip out.
Representative Fontenot, thank you for coming to the well. I just have a question. How old, is there any age limit on open carry in Louisiana?
There is not.
So someone 18 can open carry?
Yes, sir.
17?
No, sir.
So you could be 18
I'm not sure about 17. Let me
okay,
correct that.
but you can be 18 to open carry.
Yes, sir.
But your objection is to conceal carry at
Yes,
18.
sir. Yes, sir.
Do you see a difference? Is there a difference there? You're carrying the same gun, the same weapon.
Well, I'll go back to the ability to purchase a firearm. And I'm not here to debate what the current law is. I'm trying to protect us going forward. In order to go purchase a firearm, you have to be 21 years of age. That includes, by federal law, a background check. Do we agree to
Correct.
that?
Yes.
So I can't change what's in the current law, and you are right, it is 18. But I'm saying that if we conceal carry, that it should coincide with what the federal law allows them to purchase a firearm.
But my question to you is, do you see a difference between an 18-year-old carrying open versus concealed? It's the same weapon. Is there any real difference in that?
Oh, I mean, you asked me what the law is.
No, I didn't ask you what the law. I just asked you, was there a difference in carrying open and concealed the same exact weapon?
No difference.
Thank you, Rep.
I do feel like Fontenot is a good man. I don't think that he's trying to be deceptive. I honestly don't. I don't think that it is a bad thing that he's offering up a variation of a bill that later gets amended by Blake Miguez, Representative Miguez, and thrown into this bill for training. Now, before anybody gets upset, because I thought the same thing at first, Fontenot is not suggesting that training is mandatory. What they're doing is they're earmarking a certain amount of dollars that goes into the funds of the Louisiana State Police for money that's paid towards these concealed carry permits that people are paying for. They're earmarking a certain amount of money, which wound up being around $20,000, to put together a series of videos that are available training to people who might seek to open carry or conceal carry so that they understand the various laws in terms of carrying a firearm in the state of Louisiana. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think anytime we are offering up some kind of education that the public has access to, my God, we're paying enough in tax dollars already. We may as well have them do something that actually is worthwhile instead of some of the other garbage that I saw in here yesterday that people are trying to pass, just absolute garbage. This will contribute directly to education, knowledge, and potentially to safer people out there carrying firearms. I think that's a big thing. I think that especially us on the Second Amendment, in the Second Amendment community, we have to be diligent about making sure that we are the true proponents of gun safety. We've got the left always trying to hijack that phrase and say that they are doing this for gun safety, whenever their version of gun safety has nothing to do with education, but everything to do with banning firearms and keeping them out of the hands of law-abiding Americans. I think that our role and our responsibility has always been and needs to continue to be to offer up that true gun safety, which includes educating new gun owners, existing gun owners, anything like that that's going to pass on that level of safety that we kind of put on ourselves and we demand on ourselves as law-abiding gun owners in America. So I'm not opposed to this amendment to include training voluntarily. I don't want it mandatory. When it becomes mandatory in any of these constitutional carry bills, it's not constitutional carry anymore. It's pretty much just a permit that you're having to get, because you got to prove if it's mandatory. You have to prove that you took it. So it's no different than what you have now. You just may not be carrying the little card around that says that. I do wish, however, they would let firearms professionals outside of the Louisiana State Police take part in this and at least contribute a little bit. I feel like leaving it just in law enforcement's hands to do that, then you're approaching it from a one-sided way. I'm not saying that anything that they're going to put forth is wrong, but law enforcement are typically, as a whole, not known to be gun people. So they may not understand the gun culture. They may not understand the right nomenclature. They may not understand what people are really doing out there, because they're viewing this strictly from a law enforcement standpoint. And this is a program that these guys are putting forth out there that's going to be initiated by law enforcement. The Louisiana State Police are the ones who are going to put all these videos together and all this information. So I'd like to see them seek, if nothing else, put somebody else on a board, some non-law enforcement professionals outside of their industry, outside of their immediate circle, to allow them to have a little bit of input in putting together a really comprehensive plan that people can utilize if they want to. So in short, HB 37 did pass yesterday in the House. I will list those who voted and those who did not vote for it, so you can take a look and see if your people in your area are supporting the Second Amendment cause in the state of Louisiana. This now will go to the House, where it's likely to pass, and we may be right back where we were before, going to the governor's desk where he may veto it again. Now, I will say this has gone through pretty quick. This has moved pretty fast, faster than it did last year. Last year, the problem we had by going to that veto override session after the governor vetoed this bill, or a bill like this, was the very fact that there was not enough time in the session to go back and override the governor's veto. In other words, this session is a longer session, and it's going to last till June 6th of this year. So that's a lot of time. This passing so early has a chance, if the Senate passes it early enough, it has a chance to go to the governor's desk early enough to where if he vetoes it within the session, if they're still in session, they can go back and override the governor's veto. Now, will they do that? Probably not. A lot of these cowards showed themselves last year whenever they backed away from this, whenever they actually got a veto override session that they weren't expecting to get. It's like the dog chasing the car. Once they catch it, what do? You know, they got the veto override session. A lot of these guys were, oh crap, I really didn't want that bill to pass. And then they had to show their true colors after in that veto override session. They voted against this bill last year. So they may have a chance to actually go through all these motions without having to have that historic veto override session and do this in session and really show their true colors this time. Now they're not going to be able to stand behind this thing saying that, oh, well, I really didn't read the bill before. Now I've had a chance to read it and now I don't support it. We'll see how that shakes down now. I'll keep you guys updated on this, but this could be a big thing. I think that the governor, as corrupt as he is and as anti-gun as he is, and as you can see, the politics, the favors that take place, and everybody needing the governor to sign their bill. The governor kind of did a backhanded threat last year that he wouldn't support, and he didn't support some of these people's bills that were threatening an override of the governor's veto. He purposely either did not approve things or didn't sign off on them or whichever. So there's a lot of corruption here. State of Louisiana, I mean, I think most states are like this. So I do feel like we're probably going to get the same result, if you're asking my opinion, as last year. I don't think it's going to pass because I think the governor is going to do his corruption dance again. But nevertheless, we're going through that again, and it's going to be harder and harder for these things to keep getting kicked back and not passed, because our legislators are showing more and more and more that we think this is a thing that has to happen in Louisiana. I do think at some point this is going to happen in the state of Louisiana. I think having a corrupt anti-gun governor in our way is going to be our problem. Let's get him out of there. I think we need to get the next governor will be a pro-Second Amendment governor. We won't have the same screw up like we have in this governor. And I think at that point we'll easily get constitutional carry. But for now, this is the hand we're dealt, and this is what we're dealing with.